This is as bad as it gets. And yet the president will not confront the Russians on this score, denies being briefed. I don't know what the Russians have on the president politically, personally, financially, or whatever it is, but he wants to ignore, he wants to bring them back into the G8 despite the annexation of Crimea and the invasion of Ukraine. And he's kissing up to Putin in every way, so totally irresponsible. Something is wrong with this picture.
Let's bring it. That was Nancy Pelosi
I know,
responding
I
to that. The Russia stuff. So Kayleigh McEnany, she is the White House press secretary. Let's bring her in. I mean, she's saying this is as bad as it gets. Everything is so political. What is the real story, or at least your side of the story, Kayleigh?
So first, Nancy Pelosi is entirely off base. This president has been very tough on Russia, sanctioning innumerable Russian targets, closing Russian consulates. So she's just off base on her facts there. But secondly, let's put this in the context of what she's talking about. She's talking about alleged intelligence that was never briefed to the president of the United States. And what's she doing? She's taking a report based on anonymous sourcing that was just dead wrong. The New York Times was wrong, believe it or not. And she's politicizing it. So the only person playing politics here is the Speaker of the House, and it is truly despicable.
When it comes to the Russian story, among the people that need answers, Liz Cheney says reporting about Russian bounties on U.S. forces is true. The White House must explain why wasn't the president or vice president briefed. So when people like Liz Cheney, who has been a very loyal ally to the administration, have questions, has there been an effort already from the executive branch to brief her?
So there will be a briefing today. I think it will clear up a lot of the false reporting from the New York Times. The president has made clear that he's never been briefed. Two DNIs have made that clear, both Radcliffe and Rick Grinnell, two national security advisors, Robert O'Brien, the current one, and even John Bolton said he was not aware of this intelligence. Intelligence, we don't comment on it routinely, but just so you know how it works, it's vetted for its veracity, and it only goes to the president and the high-level officials when it is deemed as verifiable and credible. So I think it'll clear up a lot when members of Congress are briefed today, but it is truly egregious when you have anonymous sources spewing out this information on the pages of the New York Times and wrongly giving them false information.
Kayleigh, do you think their sources, their unnamed sources, are in the White House? I mean, we've seen that before. There's some people who work in the White House who don't like the president.
Yeah, I don't know who these unnamed sources are, but it is really egregious. There's no place for this kind of leaking. It does not serve the interests of the United States to go and to share classified information or unverified intelligence or any of the thousands of reports that come in on any given day that have to be assessed for their credibility.
So, Kayleigh, Chuck Schumer is urging the administration to renew the COVID-19 emergency declaration. What's the administration's advice to the states that are seeing this uptick? Because I think there's 17 of them now.
So I won't get ahead of the president on the action, but the president did say to me he has no interest in rescinding an emergency declaration. So he did say that to me last week. But what I would say to the states that are reopening, this country can't afford to stay closed. We saw suicide hotlines spike, increases in drug use, people missing their cancer appointments and cancer screenings and treatments. Dr. Scott Atlas has been very clear about all of those consequences. But what I would say is this: we've entered a different phase of this disease. We've entered a phase where we do have therapeutics that are working, like remdesivir. We secured 500,000 treatments of that, course treatments, as confirmed by Secretary Azar this morning. We've entered a place where we're catching people in the community, not in the hospitals at late stages. So we're at a place where we can handle the cases that we're seeing. The president's always said there will be embers, but he's always said that the cure cannot be worse than the problem.
Just moving ahead real quick on something else that popped up last week. Obamacare, just by the way it works its way through the court system, the president had an opportunity to leave it be because we're in the middle of a pandemic, or let it go through the court system and it possibly be front and center and could be exterminated in October. Do you worry about the wrong message being sent, especially to seniors at a time like this?
What I worry about are Democrats here who have not come to the table with a viable option. Let's remember, Democrats left Obamacare behind. In the mind of Democrats, Obamacare is a thing of the past. You have 2/3 of Senate Democrats who want government takeover of health care, many in the House, more than 100. So they're the ones who've left this behind, this unconstitutional law. If it's unconstitutional, as our administration maintains, we have to find a better solution. We've put forward Graham Cassidy. We've put forward good health care plans that would bring down costs. But Democrats want to eliminate Medicare entirely because that's exactly what Medicare for All, so-called Medicare for All, would do.
But they
it would
would
eliminate the Medicare system.
But Kayleigh, that's true. But they would like to keep Obamacare intact until whatever. It is the administration that wants it out, but there's no replacement. The skinny deal died 2.5 years ago. So is this the wrong? Is it politically detrimental to go forward with this, especially when the court case is going to be heard in the fall?
Well, no, because I think, look, the American public looks at this and what they say is this. If Democrats passed an unconstitutional law several years ago, then it's on Democrats to come forward with a solution. Democrats got us into this quagmire to begin with, and their untenable solution of government takeover of health care is not the answer. We've put forward solutions under this president. He's worked to bring down health care costs. Democrats need to come partner with us instead of embarking on this radical trajectory that would eliminate Medicare and affordable health care for all.
Kayleigh, what the people do not know right now is where you are standing on the North Lawn. If you look to the right, you could actually possibly see the Andrew Jackson statue, which is just across the street from you. And the president signed that executive order to protect monuments over the last 48 hours. And he also tweeted out, I think it was a little more than 15 of those FBI wanted posters of people who were involved in damaging that particular monument. Just out of curiosity, what has the response to the FBI been as the president has tweeted that out? And I'm sure their phone is ringing in some measure.
Yeah, well, the response of the American public is to support this proposition. Look, none of us support lawlessly ripping down our statues. And it took this president to secure a statue of a former Democrat president, Andrew Jackson, from toppling down. He signaled this weekend with these charges from the DOJ that there will be law and order in this country. You cannot rip down statues. You cannot deface Gandhi and the Lincoln Memorial and tear down a statue of Andrew Jackson. There's no place for that kind of lawlessness in society. Not going to happen in President Trump's America.
Kayleigh, the president tweeted out that tweet yesterday and took it down. If you played it, it was a guy saying white supremacy. It was another woman, or white,
white power.
White power. And then the woman was yelling obscenities because she doesn't like the president at some of the guys that were in the parade down at the Villages. What's the president's response? Did he know what he was tweeting when did he accidentally tweet that?
So the president did not hear that phrase in that portion of the video. And when it was signaled to him that this was in there, he took that tweet down. But he made very clear to me that he stands with the people of the Villages, our great seniors, men and women in the Villages who support this president. He stands for them. And his point in tweeting out that video was to stand with his supporters, who are oftentimes demonized. So we didn't hear that portion. He took it down. But he does stand with the men and women of the Villages.
Okay. Thank you, Kayleigh, for being with us.